Welcome back to Siren Flies. Today we're going to do a Deceiver. This is a color of Deceiver that I particularly like. It's going to be tied on a saltwater hook. Align the two pairs of feathers curved sides against each other. You're going to use 4 white Deceiver feathers. They're hackles, but I don't use high quality hackles. They're cheap. And we're going to do the pinch techniques where we put the thread up and pinch it between 2 fingers and then release the wrap and then wrap forward from that first wrap so that all the feathers end up aligned on top of the hook. Trim everything up. And if your feathers don't end up aligned perfectly, you can always go back and adjust them as you need a little. But if you'll know after the first wrap if you got them on top of the hook or not. And if you need to redo that pinch wrap, go ahead, unwrap, and redo it. Now we'll tighten up all the loose ends and build our thread forward. We'll use white bucktail for this first bunch of bucktail around the feathers. And remember to choose your bucktail from the back end of the furthest back point on the tail to get the straightest fibers that won't crinkle up on you when you wrap them. And when I wrap bucktail for this fly, I do 1 loose wrap and then basically spin the bucktail like you would spin deer hair, just real loose. It doesn't need to be super perfect. You can go in and adjust with your hands there afterwards. And we'll tighten everything up, and then we'll go in and trim the bucktail off to clean everything up. And this gives the first bunch of bucktail. And we'll use 3 bunches of bucktail. And I cut the thread. Well, it happens to everybody. Don't get discouraged when this happens, but don't touch the fly, has been my experience. If you leave it alone and then go back in and wrap immediately over where you are, it'll usually hold itself together. It's when you go in there and mess with the loose wraps that it starts to fall apart again. So now we've straightened that out. We'll clip and retie back on, and we're good to go. Next, we'll put the iStub shimmer fringe. This is great stuff when you need flash that'll roll over the top of a baitfish pattern. And then it's particularly handy because if it's too long, you can just pull the tab forward and it'll adjust itself really nicely. And this particular one comes, I think it's labeled baitfish. You can check the material list for the exact name. But it's got a dark flash on top and a light flash on the bottom, which I really like. Alright, now we'll add our blue bucktail. This is the belly of this fly. And I was introduced to this color combination locally in my local fly club, and I really fell in love with it and just like it. I think it's a little bit different color combination that covers baitfish pretty well and can be really useful in a lot of places. And I did the same thing with wrapping this bucktail around, but you'll notice that the top of it, I didn't wrap it all the way and the top is kind of open. The tips overlap just slightly, but the bucktail itself leaves the top a little open. And we'll do the same thing here with the olive bucktail so that we get a nice dark top to the baitfish pattern. And again, you can always adjust your bucktail once you've got a few wraps on there and get everything lined up straight. We'll go ahead and clip the tips. And now we'll go ahead and make our thread head. On a lot of deceivers, they'll make just purely a thread head. I'm going to make this thread head pretty big because I'm going to put 3D eyes on it and then go over those with UV resin as well. So once I've got a thread head that I think is big enough to hold all that material and work well for me, I'll go ahead and whip finish it. And the whip finish probably isn't necessary, but it's something I like on most of my flies and feel like it helps secure it. Alright, now we'll go ahead and get our 3D eyes. And we'll put a little bit of super glue to just tack them in place This is really handy because once they're tacked into place, it's a whole lot easier to apply your UV resin without having to worry about any problems moving the eyes, or you bump them with the tip of the resin tube. It just simplifies life all the way around. So now we'll go ahead and put the other eye on. It's the exact same process. One little dab. And in particular, I like the gel super glues for this because it won't run, which makes a big difference when you're trying to just tack on an eye and not coat the whole head in super glue. You also have a little bit more give time with the gel super glue before it sets, which allows for these little adjustments to the eyes to get them in just the right place. Now we'll use Tuffle Eye Core to fill in the gap between the eyes. I'll do the top first and just fill in the eyes in general with this first round, because we're trying to build up the center of the Tuffle Eye, and then we'll go over and add just a little around the edges and build up a head of the Tuffle Eye before we'll go over and put a final coat. And I've cut down the time that it takes for me to use the flashlight within this video, just to save time and so that y'all don't have to sit through it. But that approximately amounts to about 45 seconds to get a real good set. I've also started doing most of the setting of this material, and then I'll set these flies out on a windowsill on a little foam block, to just let them sit there for the morning if I don't have to fish them, so that they'll get a little bit of sunlight and get real hard relatively quickly, and ensure that I don't have to worry about it. It also means I don't have to spend a ton of time on the vise making it hard with the flashlight, though I do get it just about finished whenever I have it on the vise. And now our final coat will be of Tuffle Eye Finish, and this stuff is a little bit less tacky, and it also is a little thinner liquid to work with, so it takes less to get a nice even spread, and you can rotate the hook to make that spread however you like. And so we can get a real nice head on there. We'll turn it a little just to make sure everything evens out and the coat's even around the entire head of the fly. Now we'll go in and grab the UV light. Or I'm sorry, it's not a UV light, it's a blue light. And go ahead and, like I said, it ran me about 45 seconds or so worth of flashlight time on the fly itself. But if you're like me and a little paranoid, a little bit of sunlight works wonders. Thanks for tying with me. I hope you enjoyed it. Like us on Facebook.